Kigali in the morning, 12 minutes after 8 o'clock. It's 8 at 8. My name is Jesse, the African son. I have two beautiful women in the studios today. And from what I received from most of you this morning,
Why did you laugh like that?
why did I laugh? No, because one, I don't know what to expect.
Why? Are you meaning that in a good way?
Yeah,
Are you
Co-asks.
scared?
Co-asks.
I don't know, in a good way.
Are you nervous?
I'm nervous because I should have had somebody else here to balance the space, but
You want a male compa?
But,
I see. Now I see why you're nervous.
I have Zuba Mutesi, friend of mine who is joining us in the studios. Welcome, Zuba.
Thank you, Jesse. It's always a pleasure.
I can imagine what it means for you to wake up to be here.
But Jesse, you know, early mornings are not new to me. You for sure know early mornings are not new to me. But anything for Jesse.
Yeah, thank you for coming through. Ondiro,
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. I know you as the boss lady.
Mm-hmm. And she dresses the part. I must say.
Zuba, you're far too nice. Jesse is my friend. He's trying to finesse me. But yeah, how are you doing?
I am all right. How have you been?
I'm all right.
Are you still doing your journalism work?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do during the day. And then I do other things during my free time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
A woman of many trades. We love to see it.
Zuba, actually, I don't know where to find you lately.
You don't know where to find me. Are you sure?
But at least from the corridors, people tell me that you're making a lot of money from dance.
Is that right?
I don't
I'm
know.
making a lot of money from any God-given skill that God has blessed me with.
The dance part.
The dancing, the talking, the writing, you name it.
You're still doing content creation, right?
I am heavy into content creation. I've gotten more into my comms and marketing consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't see me dancing as much, I'm somewhere writing behind the
So
screen.
you're actually the one who has many hats that you're wearing.
Perhaps.
So you opened up a company?
On the way.
On the way to open up a company. Yeah,
Very
good
soon
things.
you're going to see.
Good things. Still looking beautiful, the parts. Yeah?
Thank you, Jesse. Jesse has always been good with words, you
Yeah,
know?
he
From
is.
long.
He is.
But anyway, let's get into this conversation. Today we have a fascinating topic. It touches on the dynamics of relationships and the roles that we play in these spaces. Now, I have Ondiro, I have Zuba. They're discussing a thought-provoking, sometimes unsettling statement I overheard. Women choose who to date, but men choose who to marry. Then it brings in the question of gender roles and expectations, which are constantly evolving. So in this conversation, I am sure will spark something of interest, a debate, to dive into the societal pressures and influences and choices and the balance of power in relationships today. So wherever you are, grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready, because I do not know where this is going to go. I found this statement one to arrive with a mix of emotions. Women choose who to date, men choose who to marry. Where does this sit with you, Ondiro?
Why are you starting with me? Start with Zuba.
Why do you have to start with
Start with Zuba.
I'll throw it back. I have a question to throw back, to
Okay.
be honest. So when you marry someone, you have to have dated them. You date to marry. So if I chose to date you, didn't I essentially choose to marry? Like, you see?
I don't think
If
so.
if the statement says women choose who to date, to marry someone you have to date them. Like, you don't just wake up and say, I've seen you, you're lovely, let's marry. We have to date. So if I've chosen who to date, then I've essentially chosen who to marry.
Is that in the random context, or that's just how you feel?
I feel like I'm making a blanket statement.
Okay.
Granted that if we put it into the Rwandan context, that may change.
Yeah.
Given the gender disparities that are still present, the different nuances that you find even in the way young girls are taught about marriage, about relationships as a whole, not even just marriage, relationships as a whole, and even the examples you see most of the time. So I think that the statement would be very pertinent in societies where it's more conservative, whereas I feel like in a more liberal, quote unquote westernized society, this would be kind of like, is it really?
Yeah. I've lived a little bit in East Africa and also West Africa. I travel out to South Africa a lot for work, and I've seen very different perspectives from all this place. I think Kenya, we are raised to, particularly for us girls, boys are not part of the picture. So you're raised to get a great education, be independence of thought, independent financially. And that comes with its own perks and advantages because you learn to see yourself as a human being, as an individual, and attach some value to you. So when it comes to dating, then unlike back in the days where I think our moms felt like they had no choice but to date whoever came, right now we are seeing that there are so many Kenyan women, particularly in the Kenyan context, that are very particular about who they want to date, right? And the second part where they say men choose who to marry, just from a blanket point of view, having lived in West Africa, I think I've had so many horror stories where a man, irrespective of who he is, in terms of value, in terms of character, when they want to marry, they... I don't know if it applies in the Rwandan context, wife material, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So those are the guys that they deliberately target. So I wouldn't say choose, they target.
You see, I like that word too, target. But you see, building off of that, I think also another important aspect to that is generations.
Yeah.
There's such a huge difference between Gen Z and even millennials. Like, even though they're the closest in generation, there's such a big difference in that Gen Z have a more liberal approach to relationships, It's one of those where, like, I understand that as a human being, I can be attracted to so many people. I can have all of these, and they feel like a lot of people feel like they can have their cake and eat it too. Like, if I'm gonna date this girl, I can marry this one too. Or if I'm gonna date,
Staying on that, I don't know if we can say this. I've heard that Kigali is one big bedroom.
Kigali, we what? We share.
Per person sharing.
We sure. I'm not part of the we. Personally, I'd like to take that. I would personally like
they
listen.
Minus Zuba.
But to be honest, Kigali, we really do share. Like, when you think of something and you just speechless.
Zuba, open your heart. Tell us what you're thinking.
I feel like, I recently heard a podcast of this guy explaining, like, rationalizing cheating. He's like, someone can be married, and cheating in the physical aspect. He's like, someone can be married and absolutely love and adore their wife, respect, worship the ground she walks on. But then they want more. I'm like, okay. Yeah. That doesn't make sense in what you're saying, because if you have everything you wanted in her, why are you going out to look for it? Especially when you're married. Now, when it comes to relationships, I feel like here it's become a big joke. Like, people just say, I'm so sorry to say this, but people say they're in relationships for an aesthetic. Like, me and you are dating, and because we're at the age where, it makes sense, we should be dating, and then the next phase is, being serious, And other people is just for sure, like, I don't want to be the one who's single, or because some people also have a problem with being single, which I don't understand. You have to be very content.
You have no problem being single?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none at all. Whichever phase of life God puts before me, that's it. But I don't feel like a lot of people now actually, like, live the weight of being in a relationship, especially here, because there's people I see in a relationship and I'm like, this is a joke. This is actually a circus. This is a big circus.
Yeah.
You see people who are in a relationship, like, for example, let's say me and Jessie are dating.
Ooh.
And that Jessie and I, like, it's common knowledge that Jessie and I are dating, right? Our friends know it, people, like, it's not something that I have to publicize because it's something that we've shown. Now, Jesse then decides, it's like, I still have Zuba, but I also have Sister Bettina on here. And even with her, I'm going to give her the attention, the love and the care, yada, yada, yada. Whole time knowing I have Zuba and I have Sister Bettina. Like, do you know how wild that is? A relationship is supposed to be between two people, but now you've made it 4 people.
Yeah. But listen, is it because men around have the means to actually fund all these relationships?
Jesse.
Can they really?
In this economy, no,
Can
they
they
don't.
really?
No, they don't. I think that also part of society, and that is slightly changing because of generation. I have seen, I'm now heading towards 30, and there's always this crazy pressure for women when you're in your late 20s. I don't know about Rwanda, but in Kenya, we're almost taught or gaslit into thinking that when you get to 27 to 30, your ovaries are just going to get fried, and nobody will want you. And so in your early 20s, you might date for the sake, right? And then 27 to 30 is where it becomes the ghetto.
25, you're like, yo.
Yeah, so by 30, 27, 30, and that's where I think there's that window of desperation. And people prey on it. And when I say people, I mean men. And that is the time where you find now they choose to marry because they know that you're thinking your biological clock is ticking. And so even if somebody is, say, 70%, you're going to settle down because of everything that has been fed into you. And there was a time I was talking to a lady.
You're going to settle.
Yeah. She's 35 and she's single. And she was saying 27 to 30 was the worst period of her life because everybody that she went to high school and campus with was getting engaged, getting married, having a baby. And of course she was happy for them, but a part of her was shattering on the inside. And everybody was telling her, bruh, 30s.
Like, look at your parents are telling you,
look
at your mates. They're married.
And then now when she's 35, she says, oh my God, I dodged my first divorce.
Ooh.
Wow.
Right? Because now,
if you settle, then you're going to be like,
And remember, the person that married you did not choose you. You just the wife material. You tick those boxes. That's why you're saying somebody can be married, right? Married to a gorgeous lady, a lady with a career, her own money, a woman who's very astute. And you'll see them chasing other people. Why? Because for you, babe, you stay at home, you go to church, you can raise kids. Once he's married you, he goes back to mulatto with his chicks.
Listen, is there a fair balance of power in relationships? Looks like you're saying he goes, he looks for. So basically, Kigali we share is propelled by the he. Or could it be that also there's a balance in power where women are saying, one is not just enough?
I think it's a balanced equation. You can't blame one and not blame the other.
Yeah.
There's blame to be, shared because men and women, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And there has to be 2 people in the equation for anything to happen. So I think on one side, women have accepted bare minimum and subpar that it's become so normalized. So then when a man meets someone who doesn't settle for subpar, immediately she becomes labeled or put in a certain category and bracket, right? And that's because I'm not succumbing to your ideal, your standard, whatever. Then there's those who are going to succumb to subpar. Like, someone gives you bare minimum and you feel like it's enough, or you feel like it's the world, and therefore you continue the cycle. So we're literally caught in a situation where on one side, there's women who have accepted it and made it normal for people to feel like it's okay to do this and it's normalized and it's a culture at this point. And then on the other side, there's the men. What's your end goal? Most of the time, I just want to ask that. What is your end goal? Okay, fine. You have 2 women in your life. You're not going to end up with both of them. What's your end goal?
It's possible.
Unless you're a Hajj. I don't know unless you're a Hajj, I don't know what church you're going to go to get married. And they tell you it's okay to have in the law.
It might not be legal.
Fine. But even as a human being, may I just think as a man, like, how much can you handle? Like, relax. Why can't you just be content with one thing?
I think we don't shame men enough.
Shame?
Actually, we don't shame men enough.
Like it.
Because if you find a woman cheating, particularly if you find a married woman cheating,
let's go there.
Yeah?
Do you know how many times the likelihood of a woman forgiving a man after cheating is higher, like 60, 70, 90% higher than a man accepting a babe was cheated? More time the man will be out like a light. Out. Gone with the wind, fabulous. Whereas a woman, you see, the thing, this is what I don't like about women. They like to test their emotional strength too much. Okay, you felt the pain the first time, the second time, you want to keep firming it. Then finally, you get to a point, because let me tell you something, by the time a woman decides to cheat on you, she actually clocked out of the relationship a long time ago. For a woman to get to a point where she says, you know what, I'm done, even me, let me go and enjoy.
It could be, because you mentioned normalizing. If people just normalize, society normalizes.
Different. You went to take an oath. You see, if I'm in a relationship, that's different.
It's just for vibes, for the gram.
Vibes when you paid millions to go and get married. Your vibes are very expensive.
Your vibes are very and that again goes to the choosing part. If as a man you choose to marry somebody, this is a decision that you have to make and stay committed to this person. What pushed you to choose this person, and why did you choose them? And by choosing them, you're making an independent decision to stay committed to this person. Unless also as a man you felt that you needed to settle for. And I think that is the reason why we can rationalize many of these things. You understand? Because you see, as women, having lived in West Africa, I've had stories of there's a lady who, and you know, West African men, when they want you, they will chase you. They will chase you. And you know, as a woman, maybe during that time you might think you get to choose, because different people want you, and you weigh on several metrics, and you say, probably this one, he's a great person, he gives me attention, he's caring, he's loving,
he's
and
kicking all my boxes.
And he can provide, actually, he can protect. And when you marry them, the chase ends. And I remember this lady went to her mother-in-law crying, saying, this man is not home over the weekends. His phone is always ringing. There are 1,000,001 passwords on those phones. And I know that there are other women
because
out there.
It's a high quality man.
Jessie, please, let's not do that.
If you're a high quality for everybody, darling.
Yes, you're not high quality. And
you're common goods.
Yeah.
But you know, you just mentioned why you hate on women is because they would see this man do something, do it again, and they'll still test their emotions, be forgiving.
I don't know why. And then the thing is,
why are they not moving on?
No,
because
he's a high quality man.
It's not that easy to move, because when this lady went to her mother-in-law, because you're assuming your mother-in-law is the voice of reason in the child's head, the mother-in-law said, is he providing? Are the children in school? Do you get your allowance? And she said, my dear, if you're bored over the weekends, come we go for weddings and funerals. Have you ever seen? She said, come we go for weddings and funerals.
Cut the cameras. I'll be like, mother-in-law, please, respectfully, humbly, take your son back.
There's no room for that. You understand? So there's several nuances. And even what you're saying, what makes you a high value man? Is it just because you have money? Is it just because you have money? Because I think there are other things that go into making you a high value man. To run a company, you are in a position of leadership. You understand that there are certain values that you must possess to ensure that a company becomes successful. You can be making a lot of money. Take a look at Elon Musk, a very rich guy, but very impulsive.
Yes,
right?
Very annoying.
And everybody around him, even his shareholders, move with some certain tension because of how volatile of a leader he is. Doesn't make him a bad leader, but there's tension around him.
The volatility.
There are certain men who can provide financially, but they will never protect you. Anything that's happening, they'll never get up to speak for you. There are certain men, in terms of protecting, they don't know how to protect your peace as a woman. So people can see.
They don't know peace themselves.
Yes,
how can you
someone can see you're an
woman?
astute gentleman, well dressed, you have money. When someone tries to hit on you, this man does not have the integrity to protect your peace at home as a spouse and say, I appreciate your advance, but I have a partner at home.
And the thing is, men are so relentless and shameless. My goodness. Because, you know, the thing is, there's also like a lack of respect at some point. Because if someone comes to you and you make several advances and I tell you I'm not interested, you keep going, I'm taking that as harassment. You're harassing me. I've said no. And you're like, but no, I can offer you this. I can do this. I can. So a lot of times men are thinking of it transactionally, like it's a transaction. Whereas us babes, we already jump in with the emotions full throttle from jump. When in fact, if you start thinking of it as a transaction too, you also see how somebody is moving and then you move according to how they're moving. Because what the energy you're going to give me is what I'm going to give you. You give me minimal, I'll give you minimal.
Absolutely.
That's calm. You give me what I expect, I'll give you what I would expect you want as well.
Oh, wow.
So you have to, you level the playing field. I go according to how you are. But the thing is, a lot of people like take that filter off. And I get when they say love is blind, because sometimes I look at people and I'm like, there's no way someone can be out here doing everything they're doing. And, you know, a lot of times like people don't even realize it's your reputation as well. Like outside of all the love and whatever, you also have to think of yourself as an individual. Once you have decided to say I'm in a relationship with this person and made it public to that to people, and you make it known, if you step out of that commitment, you are disrespecting the person you're with. And we're gonna take both of you as idiots. Like we're gonna take both of you, because
But listen,
there's one being mismanaged and there's the mismanager.
so they say no one is entirely free. No one is entirely single. Everyone has somebody. And then women love it when men are consistent in trying to pursue them. I hear from Zuba you saying, if you consistently come and trying to pursue me, then I'm going to call it harassment. Why would you call it harassment when a man is just trying to be consistent?
And if
You
there's
say, women
consistency-
say, if you're not consistent, that's a red flag.
No, but there's consistency in when you have been accepted. Consistency when you have not been accepted is harassment. Leave me alone, sir. I have said no once. I have said no twice. I have said no 3 times.
Ondiro says West African men are good men. When they chase
See,
you,
the
they will
thing is,
chase you.
There's a chase and there's pursuing when you've been accepted. Now, if you're consistent in a manner that I like, then that's completely different to you being consistent in a manner which is unsolicited and I didn't want.
Yeah.
If I've made it clear that I don't want it, leave it.
What's a
Leave
good
me
chase?
alone.
No.
But men take it as a challenge.
What's a good
like,
chase?
Challenge
Yeah.
accepted.
But also the good chase depends on the person. And just, you see, West Africans are very extravagant, right? East Africans are stingy. West Africans are very extravagant,
sips tea.
right? So if somebody wants you, they are going to go through any means. They're willing to break the bank to show
If
you
you wanted
that
to, he would.
yeah, to show you that he can. I always tell the story and say there was a time some friends of mine and I went to an event. It was like a food festival. And because they're Nigerians, we met other Nigerians there. We exchanged contacts. Because, I mean, good vibes. You're meeting people in a foreign
Yeah.
country. The next day they said, hey, we're still at the festival. You want to pull up? We said, why not? We went. When we were leaving, we were 3 girls. They gave us $3,000.
Huh?
And we were like, what's the money for? And they said, thank you for coming money.
Huh?
Huh? And I said, first of all,
Meanwhile, here they're telling you to split the bill
I
or
watched
pay for the
too
cab.
many Nigerian movies to be taking 1,000 bucks from a stranger, but that's just how they move. But then, even that can become
Transactional,
suffocating.
yeah.
It's so transactional, and at some point it becomes love bombing. I was listening to Toke Makinwa once, and she was talking about how a guy bought her 2 Birkenbergs in a week. A Birkenberg is nearly $6,000. 2
And
in a week.
that's like the cheapest.
You know.
There's Birkins that cost about 130.
Yeah.
Bags.
So that question about what chase is good is, it goes back to what Zuba said. First of all, are we on the same page? Do I appreciate and accept your advance? And then this is the kind of person that I am. There are girlies that are vacation girlies. There are girlies that are
Yeah,
restaurant
aesthetic,
girlies.
what?
There are girlies that are home girlies with candles and movies.
We love those ones.
Huh, just
Cheap
say. Just say. No, but also, another thing that I feel like men have a disconnect with is women who are like, okay, there's sexually liberated, yes, but then who are more free, who are like, even me, I can have my cake and eat it too. Don't just think that you men are the only ones who can play with people's emotions. There's babes who are also like disconnected in that sense, whereby they know that I can love Jesse, I can love John and David, and I can balance them all out.
So is that part of women choosing who to date?
I don't know if it's choosing or if it's a power play, because sometimes I feel like it's a power play, because I feel like we're getting to a generation where women are tired, they're over it. You know, we've seen our mothers' generations where, like, you know, you're being taught even in bridal showers, whatever, you know, if he cheats or if he beats you, Niko Zuba kwa. That is something that is so commonly said. Niko Zuba kwa is like, it's how the homes are built, right? Which is crazy advice to give somebody who's getting married. So you also hear how that can be normalized if aunties and mothers are telling that to daughters. That, first of all, red flag number one. So there's girls who look at that and they're like, first of all, there's this narrative of marriage, and I don't think that especially for my generation, like the Gen Z and whatnot, have been sold a positive view of marriage and relationships. Because if you actually look at it, it's very few people in especially the African context who have grown up in a home where they see a healthy relationship being enacted. What does that mean? Communication. There's people who have never even seen their parents kiss, their lips touch, yet they say they've been married for like 40-50 years.
The mouth is for eating.
Jesse. But even anyway, let me it's 2 in the morning. Jesse then distracts me. But you see that there's girls who are like, why would I want to succumb to this crazy view of a relationship when I could be out here getting my cake and eating it too? And what does that mean? There's a plethora of men out here. Plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah.
So this fish can satisfy this need. This fish can satisfy this need. So let's all enjoy. Yeah. There's people who've walked away from the ideal view of a relationship strictly because we don't have enough positive or it's not even inspirational guidelines to look at. Because in reality, when you look at like an African marriage, I don't even think I'd want to be in one of those.
Oh my God, girl.
Like me, I'd rather be a rich auntie. I promise you.
No, listen,
I'm okay being a rich auntie.
Listen, I totally understand what you're saying, because and it comes to now women choosing who to marry.
To date?
No, who to marry. Who to marry. The dating pool, you can choose who to date, but the more women are growing, particularly once you pass 30, and it's almost like your eyes open and you realize the weight of marriage. And you see, like the babe who said she had dodged her first divorce, you become more intentional. And so all these things that you're talking about, communication, intimacy, respect, kindness, they become so important that you'd rather be on your own than settle for less. There's a Nigerian lady that posted a photo. She said 43, single and childless. And people were attacking her, but the people that were attacking her almost do not know what to do with a mentally liberated woman who says, I'm not going to settle for less. There are those who will test the waters, play the games, but you get to a certain age and you realize that also as a woman, you have to be very careful in who you choose to settle down with. Because see, men have these options where they can be married and have a girlfriend and say, my wife is mistreating me, and the girlfriend will have empathy on them. Yeah. But the judgment that is bestowed upon women when you step out of your marriage,
when they're divorced, like most of the time the blame is
there's so much
on the woman.
Stigma. And most of the time men will divorce and marry again, and the divorced woman will just focus on raising her children. You understand? So women are getting to a point where they're careful in choosing. There's this influencer, she's called Oloni, and
I follow
you know Oloni, right?
Oloni.
She got engaged, and it went quiet for about a year or two, and she made it public that she had separated with her fiance, and people were trying to attack her, but she was like, listen, you know, sometimes men can audition and they can pretend really well. Right? And you know, these days I see people, they date for 6 months, they marry, or 1 year they marry. Don't even get started on the church where when you go on a date, your pastor has to be there. How do you even get to know this person? And so people are realizing that you have to take your time and you have to know the person.
Listen,
you understand?
Who you're going to lay your head with for the rest of your life is long. And especially when it comes to the fact that when you marry someone, there's also the intention of building a family. Would I trust this person to be a father, which is even more important than being to me at least, I feel like being a father is even more important than being a husband.
I was watching
Because
this interview.
You can replace me as your wife, but you can never replace a child. Your child is yours forever. We could divorce and I stop being your wife, but your child is...
I was watching this interview. A lady was saying that the challenge with today's empowered woman, which is you ladies. The challenge
Okay.
is that the empowered woman, she's likely marrying a playboy than marrying a husband. All right? What really separates husband man from regular man? Do you have an idea?
Zuba?
Personally, that's why I always say, just be a rich auntie, man. Because really trying to figure all of this out is going to be so long. I think even what is it called? A husband material can also be a playboy. It's a switch. The same way a woman can go from being the most promiscuous to the most, homemaker, vibes, mommy, whatever, in a blink of an eye. There's a saying in Kinyarwanda, umuntu ni mugari. So it's like saying basically a person is vast. You never know
Elastic.
You don't know. An elastic has where it starts and where it ends. But as a human, because you're constantly evolving, yesterday you're not the same. Was not the same as today. Who you were yesterday is not the same as today. There's something you encountered, something you learned that made some form of difference. So because I'm a constantly evolving human being, I'm not static. I know that who I may be today and how I may rationalize things may be completely different. And also, the environment I'm in also affects that. So I also have to think about your intellectual capacity. If I can sit with you and talk to you and I don't feel like there's a gap, already there's also something that I'm more invested in there. And that in itself also changes who I am and how I approach certain situations based on who you are. Because let's say the statement is right and men are choosing who to marry. Even when you're choosing who to marry, there are different things you're going according to. And even then, as you're seeing them manifest, you're also changing yourself to match my energy. Because you're like, if she's ticking the boxes, I better also, I better up the ante and make sure that I'm balancing the equation. So I'm not lacking for this person who's ticking my boxes. So then it also becomes a competition of who can tick boxes better, who can be better. And then I feel like that is what takes us away from the actual, true meaning of being in a relationship, because it then just becomes for show. You want to tick all my boxes and say, you're respectful, you're kind, you provide, you do this, you do that. Then even me, I just tick certain boxes. But if you look at the meat, like the actual depth of everything, it's so shallow. Because we've just focused on the ticking of boxes. That's why I'm saying someone can play husband material and be a playboy. People here are men, they're such good actors. Wow. More
than the women?
Actually, I would like to know, I should have Googled this question. Have men actors won more award than women? Because I feel like you have. I feel like you have. And it's for a reason.
It's just
Someone
because
can be a playboy,
the ground was not leveled yet. Okay?
Jesse,
so men were more involved.
Today, you can lie to me that you are an upstanding man.
And his friends will also lie for him.
Thank you.
And say, our wife, before he met you, what have you given him? Ever since he met you, he's a changed man.
First of all, let me tell you something. Ladies, if you ever enter a man's circle and immediately they're so chipper about accepting you, run. Run.
Why is that so?
Run. Why are you guys so excited to have me like that? Relax. Why are you showing so much excitement? Because that's also a red flag. Why are you all this excited? What are you hiding?
You said you want the energy to match your energy.
If I've come in quietly, why are you all coming guns blazing gallantly? Why? What are you hiding?
Men just want to be men.
No. Lay low. Lay low like an envelope. You see, because the thing is, a man can play like I said, you can play the part and look husband material. And once you land and you've gotten what you want, the jig is up. Playboy comes right back out. You're like, I got what I want. Now I can move on.
Yeah.
Because you've already closed, you've signed the deal, you've sealed it, and like she's in the bag, it's done.
Yeah.
Then you go back to your ways.
Absolutely.
Then you go back to circle. Men are so in love with the chase. You guys are so in love with, I gotta have it. Like you take it as a challenge. That's what we're saying. Even when a girl says no, you people take it as a challenge. You know how annoying it is to be somewhere, you tell someone no once. They refuse, they come back. No. Second time. 3 times. Jesse, you yourself, you didn't take that as harassment. A babe you don't want. You've made it clear.
Change tactics. I think men are just
Did you
not
just say
using
change tactics?
Change
But
tactics.
if
Strategy.
I'm not attracted to you, so what tactics do you use?
That's the thing. And I think also men need to be taught that women choose. Because for a long time, people always thought that it's men who choose. You just wait
The
to
ball
be
is in
chosen.
their court,
And when someone comes, it's almost like you can't say no. You just go with it. And, you know, he'll lose interest along the way. You reply to one text and stuff. And now we're having women that are just outrightly saying no. Saying no to dating
And
you.
it's so shocking to
saying
men.
no to engagement.
Ego
saying
bruising.
no to marrying you. And sometimes people do not know what to do with that.
Don't you remember the girl who said no to the proposal in Carefree Zone? How long did that trend exhibit? But if it was a man refusing a proposal, yeah.
And that's why these days you'll find that these men,
News.
they say, oh, marry them when they're young, when they're 21, 22.
First of all,
Because they are not exposed.
what's with you guys dating young babes?
Because
Like,
why are you
We
marrying
had this
someone at
conversation
19?
yesterday with some
and
guys.
someone said they're easier to manipulate.
Exactly.
Exactly.
because once you hit a certain age, you can choose.
Why be
But
with
it's
someone
true.
who is bringing
No.
you trouble?
But
what
science-
is
no.
trouble? What is trouble? Define
Science
trouble.
even tells you your prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until you're 25.
25.
So by the time you start thinking completely
Different.
Like you start even looking at certain decisions and people and you're like, surely
Yes.
what was I on?
Oh,
Like it doesn't make
thank
sense
you.
to you yourself.
Jesse, what do you define as trouble?
Yes.
When there's no peace.
What
But
is
don't you
lack of
think
peace?
women also want
No, okay,
peace?
actually no. What is peace? What is peace to
To have peace of mind is
What is it?
Define it. You can't use the word
peace
in the
for me
definition.
is alignment.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you can disagree to agree. Okay, you can find consensus on certain things.
Okay.
You can go to bed at peace even when you disagree. You can still eat together even when you disagree.
Disagreeing in a
don't-
healthy. I think that's healthy communication
Yeah.
as a
Yes.
human being.
And I don't think at 21 you have the tools to communicate
Absolutely
well.
not.
Because
Absolutely
you've lived
not.
with your parents up until 18, then you went to campus, and you're just straight out of campus. What experience with life do
But
you
even
have?
campus, you're also just surrounded by your
Children
age
like
mate,
you.
So we're all
So-
thinking the same.
So at what point have they developed conflict resolution mechanisms? At what point have they learned about alignment, that is meaning building a family, that's meaning investment? At what point has she developed the ability to know that this is the right time to have a child, this is the right amount of money to invest, this is the right place to build a house, this is the right direction for you to go, this is the right master's degree for me to have, this is the way I'm going to hold you accountable for your actions.
But even experiencing life, like you cannot expect a 21-year-old to actually even fully live up to even your expectations. Because first of all, you're coming from two different worlds.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I said, even for me, like I experienced that shift. Once I clocked 25, I was like, yo.
What was I thinking?
There's some people I looked at, I'm like, how did you sneak into my life? Because
Absolutely. And do you realize,
Oh my goodness.
Zuba, when we were young, particularly 19, 20, there were these guys, and it's very predatory. Of course, when you're 19, 20,
is.
you see he's a
It
doctor, he has a car. It's so, and it's not from a materialistic point of view. It's almost like you're looking up to them, right? It's almost like you're looking up to them because
And some
they
of
are
them,
almost a manifestation
it's
of
like
what you
father
want.
figure.
Absolutely.
Because we can't also deny that in our African society, a lot of kids are raised by their mothers primarily.
Yeah.
Even if your dad is in the home, he could be in the home, but he's a figure,
Yeah.
right? So even then, we also have to accept that there's also like daddy issues come into play, big time, because
So you lay low with the daddy.
It's too early. It's too early. But then you see now, when you get to 25, 26 Zuba, when you look back at those things, you're like, this dude had no business talking to me.
no, yeah, when you look back at it, I'll be like, first of all, you need to seek help.
Yes.
Because I am your daughter's age. And you are trying to chase me.
Yeah.
Problem number 1. Number 2, I can't trust you. Because in hindsight, once you grow and you mature and you start viewing things differently, you even look at those people and you even feel ashamed on their behalf. Because why, what actually probed you to think that was okay? Yeah. Because if you look at it, because they know that there's that choice aspect, and now women are clocking that they also have the choice, it's like a culture shock. If you take me, an African, and you put me, like, it's the same for me. When I left here and I went to school and I stayed and lived in the States for a little bit, it was a culture shock even for me. No matter how, young and open-minded I am, even for me, there are things I saw, especially when it comes to how liberal things are in terms of relationships, whether it be romantic or platonic. It's very, very liberal, and it's one of those of you do your part, I do mine equally. You don't do your part, I don't do my part, period. Whereas here, I feel like it's more of, you don't do your part, it's going to force me to do more, so maybe you can do your part. Maybe I'm going to inspire you by overcompensating, which makes no sense at all, which is what most of the younger girls do. You're overcompensating for that validation, which is understandable because you want validate, especially even now with like the social media age and all of that. I can't imagine being a teenager at this age. I feel like it would be
traumatizing.
Wild. Yeah, it's a lot. I empathize because you have the social media pressure that also tells you your mates are 22, 23. This is the age you should be dating. Your 20s are the most exciting time of your life. Go out there. The world is
and
your
you can't
oyster.
date broke.
And and there's those narratives that are being sold. Number 1, as a woman, there's things you can't and can't do. There's a way you have to look and the way you have to be able to even attract those people. So then there's that narrative being sold, and then more people are falling into it, and you find people are fitting into one box. And I'm like, okay, so if we're all going to fit into one box, we're basically making a formula of one size fits all. But that can't work.
That's
We're
how
not
people
the
get
same.
eaten in that same box. It becomes a big bedroom, right?
You like eating.
Go away.
No, listen.
How many times have you brought it
Oh
up?
my
You're
God.
here with me.
I mean,
have a witness.
I think that women are beginning to learn that they can choose. They can choose who to date, because when you're dating, there's so many people at your disposal. And of course, you're young. And now we understand why people want you when you're young. And if you escape that 20s without settling or marrying, you realize that in your 30s, you not only choose who to date, but who to marry. Because the stakes are a little bit higher. Right?
Men are even intimidated now.
if you still choose to date in your 20s, and of course maybe the man chooses to marry you in your 20s, eventually you'll grow up. And again, choices. You can choose to stay depending on the circumstances that you're from, or you can choose to leave.
But also, can we talk about the men are so intimidated by women who have like a clear view of what they want. When a man looks at you, they look at you, they're like, oh, she's a hardworking babe, making her own money. She doesn't need a thing. I can't even go talk to her. Right? So then...
Meanwhile, the hardworking babe wants someone to talk to.
Exactly. So it also becomes like there's times I've seen women who are quote unquote the high quality women, they tick all the boxes that you see and they have everything going for them, and they'll tell you like, men don't approach me, and you're like, what? I would look at you and I'm like, there's no way. I would think they're falling at your feet. They're like, no, quite the opposite. They run. Because at that point the man is looking for, what am I going to give her? Once again, transactional. Because like if she's working and she has the money, clearly I'm not going to come and tell her, I'm not going to come and impress her with money. If she has her own businesses, does whatever, an emotionally intelligent human being, that means it's not an easy nut to crack. And that is so intimidating and scary for a man, because at that point, what you normalize and saw as your formula is now being tested.
Let me check with you. If you were to speak to a man what would you advise a man to be the way around these kind of women?
I think first and foremost, be yourself. So many people are just trying to be something they're not. Like, honestly, truly be yourself. Don't try to overcompensate. Overcompensation, at some point, the jig is going to crack and your little shenanigans are going to be caught, right? So it's the best to approach it with the most transparency. Of course, you don't put all your cards on the table. No one does. And ladies, most of the time we do, but style up. Just 1-2 cards at a go. So you don't lay all your cards on the table, but that level of transparency and directness and saying, like, this is who I am, this is what I want. Are we on the same page? Because men have this idea that some women are not that liberated that they can just have a physical relationship with someone. There's plenty of women out here who can have a strictly physical, like a physical, intimate relationship with you without having the emotional attachment, because they simply have just turned that off for that avenue. Be direct with what you want. And once you're direct with what you want, ensure that that is the truth. Because once you lie and I catch you in your lie, sweetheart, I will make... And the thing about women is, you know, they say when a woman decides to take revenge, even the devil sits down and takes notes. Fear a woman who is on a path of revenge. Fear a woman who is on a path of revenge.
Keyword.
So if you are not direct and you are not truthful and she gets to find out, she also has 2 choices to make. It's either she's going to succumb and just be like, okay, let's have it, let's roll with it. Or number 2, she's going to throw it back at you. And when she throws it back at you, my dear, you get a taste of your own mess.
Our time is literally fast spent. This has gone so quick. But here's a question. Somebody yesterday was intimately talking to me about men having the capacity to do almost everything they can want by themselves. They can have all the means to do whatever it is they want to do, inclusive having sex. They can have it whatever they want at any one time. A man who chooses to marry a woman, what exactly are they looking for?
Honestly, I can't speak for men, yeah?
Same.
I cannot speak for men.
Just
but
that's
I
your
think
question.
it goes back to value, right? Relationships have been transactional for a long time, where you just think a man is a provider and a woman does the domestic labor. But now things have changed a lot. The men can do the domestic labor themselves. You can get a washing machine, a dishwasher, a rice cooker, a house manager, right?
It's a life skill.
Yes.
Actually.
And then the woman, on the other hand, she has money and she has education and she has a circle of friends. So loneliness is not a thing anymore, and female friendships are very strong. So the question then becomes, on what grounds are we partnering? What is it about you that I really like, that brings me peace,
What
like
do
you
you
said?
bring to the table?
Yes, but I'm avoiding table because it's very
Yes,
cliche.
I know.
It's on what grounds are we partnering, because it's a partnership. Do I like the fact that you're a calm person, and hence every evening when I come
How are you
home, I know you're
balancing out my
calming my
equation,
nervous system.
basically?
I am with you because I know you're an ambitious person, and every day when I wake up besides you and I see you getting ready for work, I get motivated, and you motivate me, and you're business minded, and we can build together. Are you family oriented, where I know that you'll be present and will raise these children in a particular type of way? So it boils down to, on what grounds do we want to partner on? And even people who don't want to have kids, they partner on basis of, we love to travel the world.
True. How do you balance out my equation? That's the real question.
Last one. The drive.
Looks like you like us.
Yeah, he loves it here.
Of course.
He loves
of
it
course
here.
I
Look
do.
I wish you could see the smile on Jesse's face.
Listen. The drive for young girls to be independent, and you spoke about it, for the girls in Kenya, raised independent, well educated. You have this girl, you got it, you can do it on your own, you don't need a man, empowered, superwoman, all of that. Do you find this to be quite misleading for women who want to build homes, family?
Why can't you be independent and build a home? It's not like the two cannot coexist. The two can coexist. I think even ideally, I would want, if I was a man, I would want someone who is all of those
An
things,
independent
because
thinker.
I know that my child is also going to grow to understand that you have to be an independent thinker. Before you even enter a home, before you get married, you are your own person. Regardless of the fact that even when you enter a relationship, and let's say even a marriage, they say you become one. even as one, you're still two entities that have to build each other. So both of you have to pour from filled cups. You can't pour from empty cups, which is what a lot of relationships suffer from. You have people who have two empty cups, and you're trying to find something in that other person that you are lacking that they may also not have. So it's also this thing of like emotional baggage that you're just building and building. Whereas if you cultivate that mindset of being an independent thinker, an independent woman, understanding that you are your own person and living that out, it's also easier to find the person who aligns with that, because that means you don't have to tweak parts of yourself or tweak parts of your personality to fit into that mold so that someone can quote unquote accept you, which is what a lot of women tend to have to face. You change yourself or try to change yourself so you can fit in a box that a man can accept you. But if you pour from a filled cup and you say that, you know, I am this, I fulfill this, I know that within myself I can do this, therefore if someone comes in, this is how they compliment me. Not even like this is how they match me, or this is not how they fill me up, or what they bring into my life or add on to it. How do they compliment you? You're not there to fulfill what is not there. You're there to complement what already exists, and essentially give me an environment where I can see that even if other things may not be correct, you're giving me an environment for myself to see that things are not correct so that I can change them for myself. Not to change them for a person, not to change them for an environment, for myself. Because you're the common denominator in everything. Yeah. So if you are not fulfilled within who you are, and you know yourself and you're comfortable within yourself, every other thing, regardless of relationship work, it's going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Ondiro, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think just in conclusion, I'm going to say this as someone who's married, and it's going to be very controversial. Research has shown that marriages benefit men more than they benefit women. Research has also shown that the happiest group of people are single women and married men. And so what liberation of thought, and also having some finances as a woman, that independent woman that is labeled as a bad thing, is it's a choice. Is your way out. There's so many women that are stuck in situations that they shouldn't be because they're not independent thinkers, and they don't have the financial independence to liberate themselves from those situations. It can be hard. Even when I was partnering with my husband, I had to convince myself and say, hey, Michelle Obama is married. Oprah has a partner. Simone Biles is married. It's not a bad thing. Right? But I'd rather have that conversation with myself other than the other one where you're not liberated and now you have to fight so hard. The fight of just adapting to the marriage environment is far easier than trying to get out when you don't have the means to.
I wanted to ask, we have so many beautiful power couples around the community. We have so many beautiful homes, beautiful couples riding around in VWs and the super new hybrid RAV4s. Beautiful people that we see in weddings, very unhappy. Can we change that from unhappy to happy couples? Is it even a possibility?
It comes down to an individual, man. I feel like it really comes down to you as a person, not even you two as a unit. It's you as a person. Once again, like, brings me back to one point. Even if we've become one, we're still two entities. I still have to take care of myself. I still have to make sure that my mental books are aligned. I still have to make sure that I am fulfilled as a human being before I can take care of another person, right? Even one of the most important cases that shows you the importance of taking care of self. Most of the time, even when mothers are giving birth, they whenever there's a complication, the first person they think of is
The mother.
the mother. You have to think of self. Even for her, it's a tough decision some mothers have to make. Like if they ask you, for example, if you're in a tough situation and you have complications, if anything happens, who do we choose?
You choose
right?
you.
Exactly. You know you're going to have to choose yourself. You're the common denominator. So all those people who are in unhappy relationships, you also have to be introspective. It's not it's not easy, but a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times the reason why you're not happy is because you're not also looking in the mirror. You can also be a very big catalyst in your own unhappiness because you are succumbing to not even thinking about the things that are going wrong. You don't want to hold yourself accountable for letting certain things fall through the cracks, knowing that they would have made you uncomfortable, or even letting certain things slide because you feel you love this person. But love is selflessness. Love is kindness. If anyone reads the Bible, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, all those things. So if you feel that love is not there, why don't you have it in you? Why don't you care for yourself enough to sit down and tell this person? Because if this person also truly says that they love you, if I sit you down and I tell you, I've looked within and I feel like, there's so many things that I'm lacking, or I feel like there's a disconnect, having those honest conversations. People here don't like accountability. They don't like accountability. One thing I've noticed, and across the board, people take accountability as blame. When I hold you accountable to something, it's actually in your best benefit. It's in your benefit, not mine. I'm doing it so you can do better by you. I'm not doing it so I gain something from it. You're gaining the most. So if you can hold yourself accountable, more happiness comes out of that, because you're able to look inside yourself and say, you know what, even me, I fumbled here, and that's my fault, and I have to accept that I accepted this behavior, I accepted this to change, and therefore I live the consequences. But also hold the person you're with accountable. You are the person that, especially when you're married, you're the person who said, you went, put your knee down, you said you wanted me, you said you're going to do A, B, C, D. So why is it that now we're here, you're not following up? But it also comes with healthy communication. A lot of people here don't know how to communicate healthily and in a mature way, and that's just a lack of emotional intelligence.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Zuba, Mutesi in the studios, with me on the 8 at 8, Ondiro here, the boss lady. It's been a pleasure to have you, ladies.
Thank you for having us. And Zuba, really lovely meeting you.
Pleasure is all mine. Truly love this. Great. Now I know why I chose the two of us.